Well, a very good morning to you. It's Thursday, the 3rd of March 2022, and today I'm sitting at Sutton Cheney Wharf, and I'm just awaiting the engineers from River Canal Rescue to turn up today. They're due at about 9:30, which is in a couple of minutes, and they're coming to collect the engine, and they're coming to take that broken cable away. So we'll see how we get on.
If I had a boat and oceans to cross, then I would sail them. Since I have this promise to keep.
So as you can see, the chaps from the River Canal Rescue came and they've collected the engine and they've collected the broken cable, and I just now have to wait until I get a phone call from them to say it's all been fixed and then make arrangements for everything to come back. So in the meantime I can just spend some time cleaning the outside of the boat and that kind of thing, and I've got one or two other things planned. Well, a very good morning to you. It's Saturday the 5th of March 2022 and I'm back over at the Swamp Duck once again. There's been a little bit of change of plan with regard to replacing the steering cable. I've been in touch with L.R. Harris, who are responsible for servicing the engine, and I've also been appointed by River Canal Rescue to sort out the steering cable. And what they're actually saying is that the old steering cable was probably obsolete about 30 years ago, which makes sense because it's about 48 years old. And so they're not going to be able to replace that with a similar thing. So it does mean that unfortunately I am going to lose the helm behind here that I've spent so much time cleaning up. My job today is, first of all, I'm going to take out the steering wheel here, and I'm going to take out the helm simply by undoing those hinges that I put in and taking the whole thing out. Now Harris wants me to give them some measurements, and they've given me an Aquafax measurement sheet, how to measure for new and replacement steering cables. And it's quite complicated, but basically what I have to do is to measure the distance from the back of the helm here down to the first right angle, which will be in the bottom corner. That's point A. And then I go from that right angle to the back of the boat to the next right angle, where it then goes towards the transom, and that's point B. And then point C is from that right angle into the middle of the transom. So I have to add all those up in inches and so it's A plus B plus C. And then you have to take away 4 inches for each of the 90-degree bends. So in this case I have to take away 8 inches. Now when they remount the engine, they're going to try a different setup for attaching the steering cable to the engine, and it's going to go through the tilt tube mounting. So in order to do that, I then have to add 12 inches to my cable. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll film this as I go along, because there are one or two points here that I didn't know about, which you might find useful if you're trying to replace a cable and you're trying to work out how to measure for it. But I've got the kettle on, and I'm definitely going to need a cup of tea before I do all of this. Once I've got the steering wheel and the helm out, and I've got my measurements, then I'm going to go over to Harris & Sons and take all of this information and the wheel with me. Everything can be made ready so that when River Canal Rescue bring the engine and the new cable back, they've got all the pieces that they need, and it's just a matter of installing them and putting them back together. So once again, I need to take this blue surround away, and then I can support this dash with this chain, and that keeps that out of the way. The next thing I have to do is to undo this screw here and this screw here, and then this simply drops forward. Now the reason that this helm is obsolete is because this hole here is where the steering cable is threaded through, and then it goes around that mechanism that I cleaned, and it comes out just here. Now if this was a slightly more modern affair, it would have here some threads, and you would be able to, the cable would have been screwed onto it. Now if there was some threads here, it would be possible to buy an adapter so that we could actually use the modern cable, but unfortunately this doesn't have that at all, so it isn't possible to use this. So unfortunately my beautifully cleaned and polished helm will have to go. Now I've got great difficulty in getting this thing out because we struggled, but I'm sure that at Harris & Sons they have the correct implement for getting that out. There's a large nut on there which when you undo it reveals a lot more thread, and you just need to have the right equipment to be able to pull that off the thread. I'm sure they can do it in minutes, but it would take me hours. So that's why I'm going to take the whole thing away with me and take it over to them so that they can deal with that. Now this is quite difficult for me to film because it's dark and cramped, but that's the end of the new pipe that I put in to take the cable. So that's my first measurement. I need to take it from where it emerges from that pipe up to the back of the helm, so that will give me measurement A. So my first measurement, which is from this corner to the back of the wheel to the helm, is 30 inches. So A is 30 inches. So I've undone all the screws with this bit, so it should just lift out. That I can take to the engineers. So for measurement B, I can pass my ruler through the pipe here, so it comes out at the first 90 degree, and then take it to the back corner there to the second 90 degree, and that will give me the length of B. So B measures 76 inches. Then the last bit is from that corner to the middle of the transom. Now this should be easier to do because I can just pass the ruler through the grommet there, the steering grommet, and take it into the corner. So that measurement, the C, is 32 inches. Okay, so it's 32 inches, add 76, add 30, which is 138, minus the 2 90 degrees, so that's 8, brings it to 130. Add the 12 inches for it going through the tipping mechanism of the engine, so that brings us to 142 inches, which works out at 11.83 feet. So the result is 12 foot. Cable needs to be a 12 foot cable. Now while I'm in the mood for measuring cables, I've had this throttle control off this morning and I've greased it and oiled it. This is the Ultraflex, and I'm going to change these cables as well because they are far too long. Now the way that you measure these is you actually measure the total length of the cable with all the end bits as well. Whereas if you were just measuring the steering cable, you would only measure the plastic, you wouldn't measure any of the other bits. So it's where the plastic meets the metal at the other, here and at the other end, those are the bits, that's where you take your measurement. So if you've got an old steering cable and you're not sure what the measurement is, that's how you would do it, from there to where the plastic ends at the other end. Now I'm just going to take some photographs of the cable here, that end and this end, so I can get them matched up. This is one of the little push fitments that screws onto the end of the cable. So I've taken that off and I'm going to take that with me just to make sure that they fit the new cables. So when I go to the engineers, I'm going to see if they've got something that will match that. So I now have my steering wheel with the old helm on the back, and I have all my measurements completed. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go from here, it's about 19 miles, to Harris & Son, and take all this information on the wheel and let them sort it out for me. So I'm at LR Harrison & Son, and I'm just going to see if I can find somebody and talk about this engine. So I've talked to the engineers, and the good news is that I can actually keep the old steering wheel. They're going to sort that out for me, so that's brilliant. I'm really pleased about that. So it's just the helm, and the new one is nothing like as solid as the old one. It's sort of virtually plastic, which makes you think that engineering 48 years ago was considerably better and stronger. So see how that fits on. They've supplied me with some remote controlled cables so that I can put those on for the throttle. It's now Sunday the 6th of March, and I've come over to the Swamp Duck again today. Having been to Harris & Son yesterday, I picked up a couple of throttle cables. My task today is to fix those in place, ready for when the engine is returned. So we'll have a new steering cable and new throttle cables. But before I do any of that, of course, a cup of tea. The first thing I need to do is to remove the old throttle cables. So I'm going to take those off first of all. There's a couple of clips here that I have to undo. The cables are held in place in these little plastic units here by split cotter pins, so I've just got to knock that one through and pull it out. The other one, the red one, is the other way round, so I'll have to go underneath that and then pull it out from above. That's the first one out. So I've now removed those two pins. Now the idea of this is when this cable is fed into this block, it sort of clips into place, and then you put the cotter pin in just to keep it secure. Now the other connection that I need to deal with is here, and it's got one of these little spring-loaded washer type affairs which I need to clip off. And that's the only other thing that is holding the cable in place. Now the only other thing I have to do now is to remove these two screws here, and this little retainer here will pull off, and then that will enable the cable here to lift off this part here. The reason that I need to take this off is that I need to retain this part, and that has to be screwed onto the new cable. This part here now simply lifts off, and that cable is now free. And then this one should just be free to lift out when I've removed the second spring washer. The parts that I need to retain is this part here, which screws off, and then this part here, which will slide off once I've removed that little black cap as well, and I need to keep those. This just slides off now. These are quite helpfully labelled so that the black part one, the black lead, is the shift cable, and the red one is the throttle cable. So as long as I get them in the right place in here, then they can be attached to the right place on the engine when it arrives. Clean this part here, and I'm just going to put some new grease down this channel because that's where the little shift thing here goes through, and I'll put a little bit of maybe some oil down there just to loosen it up a bit, and a bit of grease around here wherever there's a moving part really. I can now slide the shift block on and take it right up to there, and then I can put the cotter pin back in just there, and that will keep that in place. Now this little piece that I retained can be screwed onto the end just there, but first of all I'll just put that little nut back that I took off, then that means I can then tighten it against the end. So that goes on first, and then that goes on afterwards. Got the cotter pin in just there, there's the block, that's in place, and I've got the correct pieces on here, the little collar, and then that's been realigned into that, and I've got the spring washer in place. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here because that's a moving part, keep it nice and slippy. Now I can put this retainer back here so that the shift cable won't come out, and I've remembered to put the throttle block on there so I can just pass the new throttle cable through it and then attach it to this pin here. Here you can see the issue that I had. The red cable is the old one and the black cable is the new one, and if you follow them along, that's where the new one ends, and that's where the old one ends. It has about 5 feet of excess cable, which means when it's installed on the boat it has to be circled round, and that makes the throttle cable extremely stiff and hard to maneuver. So I'm hoping for a lot smoother operation when I've got these new cables installed. So again, on this cable, this little nut here has to be taken off and retained, the cap there taken off and retained. Take that off, and don't really need that particularly. Then that is threaded through the block, the split cotter pin put in place, and then the cable is attached to this post here, and the little spring washer put on top of it, and that should be the connections done inside this throttle box. All of the cables are now reinstalled in the rightful place. I need to put the back onto the box here, and then it needs to be remounted on the side, and that's that part done. So I've now got all the connectors on the other end, and they're coming through this grommet here, which looks like that could do with replacing too. That's something to have a look at. Here's the control, and that seems a whole lot smoother.
There's not much more I can do now until the engine is returned, so here are some images from the Ashby Canal.
Feel the beat from where your heart is. The curse of your life, and now it's raining on me. That's right. That's right. Come get it. Chill. just get away tonight.
A very good morning to you. It's Tuesday the 29th of March 2022, and today is an important day for the swamp duck. Today is the day that River Canal Rescue are delivering the engine back from its service, and also bringing the new steering cable, the new helm and the new steering mechanism for the engine. So hopefully by the end of this morning that will be fitted, and I'll be able to take the swamp duck down to the wharf and do all those jobs that we were going to do quite some time ago.
The curse of your life, and now it's raining on me. That's right. That's right. Come get it. Chill.
Mark, how are you? Good. Nothing. Everything's done apart from the fact it keeps jumping out of reverse gear. So I've done all the adjustments on the morph controller, given it maximum to go into reverse, and even by hand I can push it back to reverse, but as soon as I let go it comes back and it just starts grinding. It's like trying to jump out of reverse basically. Anything I can do here, or is it coming back? No, it's just started doing it here while we've tried to run it up. Yeah, see, he changed his control cables, so I thought it might just be an adjustment problem. But we've done that. I've given it maximum adjustment to push to reverse, and it just doesn't want to know. So I've took the cable off completely, pushed it reverse by hand, and it just doesn't want to sit in reverse. Forward, lovely, no problems, but reverse, it just keeps wanting to jump out.
The curse of your life, and now it's raining on me. That's right. That's right. Come get it. Chill.
In order to put this steering rod in, I've had to locate another grommet, and you can just see the new steering rod poking through that. So when the engine comes back, that rod goes through the tilt mechanism, so it has to be aligned with the tilt mechanism. So I've had to drill a hole in the side there and put a new grommet on, and I'm just going to use the existing grommet for the fuel line. and then the one above will be for the cables for the throttle. The new helm has been put in behind the wheel. It's a lot firmer than it was before. It doesn't rattle around, so that's quite good. So that's all hidden behind here now, and hopefully that's the last time that has to come off for a while. The new steering cable has gone through my pipe work very easily, and it's just sitting at the back there now, waiting to go through to the engine bay when the engine finally comes back. You can see here there's a large brass nut, and that fixes onto a screw thread on the tilt mechanism of the engine, and that's what keeps it in place. So we're just waiting upon that engine to get the all clear as regards to the reverse gear. That's the only thing that's not working too well at the moment. It struggles to get into reverse. It always has done, but at the moment it's not doing it at all. It's just making really horrible grating noise. Even if you try and do it without the cables, it still wants to keep jumping out of gear, so there's something not quite right with it. If there's one thing I've learnt with boats and boat engines, you do have to have considerable patience. So I'm going to leave this video here, and the final fitting of the engine will have to be at a later date. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please press the subscription button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, which is displayed on a mobile phone or tablet throughout the video. Please press the bell icon on the home page of the channel, and you'll be notified by YouTube each time I upload a new video. Please give us a thumbs up and make any comments below, as I do enjoy reading them, and it will respond to each and every one of them. So thank you very much for watching, and do take care.
I'm putting on a show for the